You walk into a room, and everyone's head is down. Notifications are lighting up their screens like slot machines. Dings, buzzes, vibrations. The world is screaming at them through a piece of glass and metal. But your phone sits silent. No interruptions. No chaos. You keep it on, do not disturb, always. And people think you're cold for it. They call you antisocial. They say you're disconnected. But here's the truth, they don't want to admit, you're not disconnected, you're just refusing to drown. There's a certain type of person who lives with their phone permanently silenced. They're not technophobes. They're not Luddites hiding in the woods. They're people who figured something out that the rest of society is too distracted to see. They realized the phone isn't a tool anymore. It's a leash. And do not disturb is the only way to cut it. This isn't about being mysterious or playing hard to get. This is about survival. Because the modern world has weaponized your attention, every app, every notification, every buzz is engineered by people with PhDs in behavioral psychology whose entire job is to hijack your brain. They study you like a lab rat. They know exactly how to make you click. They know how to make you scroll. They know how to keep you hooked until you look up and realize 3 hours just evaporated. The people who keep their phones on do not disturb understand this. They see the game, and they refuse to play. But let's go deeper. Because this isn't just about avoiding distractions. The psychology behind keeping your phone silent reveals something fundamental about how a person views themselves and the world around them. First, there's the issue of control. People who always keep their phone on Do Not Disturb have an internal locus of control. That's psychology speak for this. They believe they are the ones steering their life, not external forces. Most people live reactively. Someone texts them, they respond immediately. Someone calls, they drop everything. Their day is shaped by whoever decides to interrupt it. They're not living their own life. They're living in response to everyone else's demands. But the person with the silenced phone, they've flipped the script. They decide when to check messages. They decide when to engage. They've taken back the power that most people don't even realize they've surrendered. It's not about ignoring people. It's about refusing to let other people's urgency dictate your existence. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of what demands your attention isn't actually urgent. That text can wait. That email isn't life or death. That Instagram notification means nothing. But because society has normalized instant responses, we've created a culture where people feel entitled to immediate access to you. And when you don't give it to them, they get offended. Think about that for a second. People get angry when you don't let them interrupt you. That's insane. But it reveals something about the psychology of the masses. Most people are so addicted to connection, so desperate for validation, so terrified of being alone with their thoughts, that they need constant stimulation. And when they can't reach you instantly, it triggers something primal in them. Anxiety, rejection, fear. The person on permanent Do Not Disturb doesn't have that fear. Or rather, they've faced it and moved past it. They're comfortable with silence, with stillness, with being unavailable, and that makes them dangerous in a world that profits from your constant availability. Let's talk about the deeper layer, the spiritual one. Because keeping your phone silent isn't just practical, it's philosophical. We live in the loudest era in human history. At no point in the past could someone in another country instantly send you a message. At no point could strangers comment on your life in real time. At no point were you expected to be reachable 24 hours a day. This is new, and we have no evolutionary wiring for it. Our brains aren't built to handle this level of stimulation. The people who recognize this and choose silence are practicing a form of modern asceticism. They're monks in a digital monastery. And just like the monks of old who retreated from the world to find clarity, these people retreat from the noise to find themselves. Because here's what happens when you silence your phone. You start hearing your own thoughts again. You start noticing the world around you. You start living in the present instead of constantly being pulled into the digital ether. And that presence, that groundedness, that's where real life happens. Not in the comments section. Not in the group chat. Not in the endless scroll. But it's hard. God, it's hard. Because silence feels like death in a world addicted to noise. When you first turn on Do Not Disturb, you feel it. That itch. That compulsion to check. That fear of missing out. Your brain has been trained like Pavlov's dog to expect rewards from that device. Every notification is a hit of dopamine. Every like, every comment, every message is a little chemical rush. And when you take that away, you go through withdrawal. The people who push through that withdrawal and keep their phones silent anyway, they're stronger than you think. They've fought a battle most people don't even know exists. They've resisted the pull of the algorithm. They've said no to $1 trillion industry designed to keep them hooked. That takes willpower. That takes self-awareness. That takes a deep understanding of what's being done to them. And once you're on the other side, once you've broken free, you start to see everyone else differently. You see them at dinner, phones, face up on the table, waiting for the next buzz. You see them walking down the street, eyes glued to screens, oblivious to everything. You see them in conversations, half present, half scrolling, and you realize they're not free, they're trapped, and they don't even know it. The person on Do Not Disturb knows it, and they've made a choice. They've chosen sovereignty over connection, presence over availability, peace over chaos. But let's be honest, there's a shadow side to this too. Because not everyone who keeps their phone silent is doing it for enlightened reasons. Some people use Do Not Disturb as a shield. A way to avoid. A way to keep people at arm's length. They're not seeking peace. They're hiding from intimacy. There's a fine line between setting healthy boundaries and building walls. And some people, hurt by the world or burned by relationships, use the silenced phone as armor. They tell themselves they're protecting their peace, but really, they're protecting their fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of being needed, fear of letting people in. So the psychology isn't always noble. Sometimes it's defensive. Sometimes it's a coping mechanism for people who VA decided the world is too much and the only way to survive is to shut it out completely. That's not freedom. That's isolation wearing a mask. The healthiest version of the Do Not Disturb person is someone who understands balance. They silence their phone not because they hate people, but because they love themselves. They're not avoiding connection. They're curating it. They respond to the people who matter. They're present when it counts. But they refuse to let the noise of the world dictate their inner state. That's the key. It's not about being unreachable. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your attention is the most valuable resource you have. More valuable than money. More valuable than time. Because your attention is your life. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And if your attention is constantly being hijacked by notifications, by interruptions, by the demands of others, then you're not living your life, you're living theirs. The person who keeps their phone on Do Not Disturb has realized this. They've done the math. They've calculated the cost of constant availability and decided it's too high. They've chosen themselves. And in a world that tells you to be everything to everyone at all times, that's a revolutionary act. So when you see someone whose phone never rings, whose messages sit unread for hours, whose notifications are always off, understand this. They're not rude, they're not cold, they're not disconnected, they're awake. They see the cage everyone else is living in, and they've walked out. You can stay in the cage if you want. You can keep your notifications on. You can keep being available to everyone except yourself. That's your choice. But don't judge the person who chose differently because they're not missing out. They're just refusing to be a prisoner. And maybe, deep down, that's what bothers you most. Not that they're unreachable, but that they're free, and you're not.